Hi, a very good morning to all of you. Today, this video is about trade liberalization and trading blocks. Chapter 26, Form 7 Economics, First Term Content. We will now look at the learning objectives of this video. Firstly, we will understand the role of World Trade Organization in trade liberalization. Next, understand the types of trading blocks that exist in the world. Also, we will understand the costs and benefits of membership in a trading bloc. What are the benefits and what are the disadvantages to a country being a member of a trading bloc. And also, we will understand the possible conflicts between trading blocs and World Trade Organization. What is the World Trade Organization, in shortened form WTO? Basically, World Trade Organization is the main powerful authority which deals with the global rules of trade between nations. Their main objective or the main function is to ensure that trade flows smoothly, predictably and freely as possible. They want to ensure that there is as much as possible free trade between nations. And given in the slide is the official logo of the World Trade Organization. The picture shows the countries which are members of the World Trade Organization. Shown in green color are the members of the WTO. We can clearly see that most of the countries, like 99% of the countries, are members of the World Trade Organization, and those shown in red color are the countries which are not members of the World Trade Organization. As we can see, there are only very few, like 5 to 6 countries who are not members of the World Trade Organization. That means most of the countries are gaining benefits through this membership. That's why majority of the countries in the world have joined hands with the World Trade Organization. That means it has some power. It has a strong, significant power in bringing trade liberalization to countries. Trade liberalization. Let us now look at what this means. Trade liberalization involves removing or rather reducing the barriers which prevents free trade between countries. Either they will totally remove the barrier or else they will reduce up to some extent and encourage free trade between countries. Basically, trade liberalization can be done either by reducing or removing tariffs and also eliminating quotas and also altering other non-tariff barriers which will encourage countries to trade freely. And also one main advantage of trade liberalization is that developing countries get the chance of specializing in the product that they have a comparative advantage, because they can produce whatever the product that they have a comparative advantage and source the other products from member countries. We will now look at the role of the World Trade Organization in trade liberalization. That means how the World Trade Organization can facilitate trade liberalization. One thing that the World Trade Organization does is they reduce the restrictions on free trade. They will identify what are the restrictions or the protectionism mechanisms used by countries which blocks or barriers free trade between countries. Identifying those techniques, the World Trade Organization will encourage those countries to either lower the protectionism barriers or else to completely remove those barriers and allow countries to trade freely. And this is mainly done through agreements. All the country members will join for a meeting which are called the rounds, and they will hold meetings where they will agree they will discuss and agree, and finally they will sign that they have agreed. Another role of the World Trade Organization is to ensure that the countries follow the rules set by them. That means the member countries are following the rules and regulations that are set by the World Trade Organization. In doing this, they discourage unfair practices such as export subsidies and dumping. And also, they will negotiate between member countries and resolve conflicts which exist between the countries. They will, through negotiations, try to resolve the problems that are prevailing between member countries which barriers free trade. Let us now learn about the trading blocs which exist in the world. What is a trading bloc? Basically, a trading bloc is a group of countries that have joined hands and signed agreements to eliminate or to reduce the level of protectionism barriers that exist between the countries. We have so many trading blocs which exist in the world, and out of those, the European Union, the SAARC are some famous trading blocs that we are aware of. There are two different types of trading blocs depending on the number of countries who are members. If a trading bloc has only two countries as members, we call it as a bilateral trade agreement. Whereas if a trading bloc has three or more countries as members, we call it as a multilateral trade agreement. As we know, we have lot of trading blocs which exist in the world. Out of those, the APEC, the BRICS, the European Union, the SAARC are some famous and popular trading blocs which exist in the world. Trading blocs can be in various forms such as free trade areas, common markets, economic unions and custom unions, which we will discuss one by one in detail. Free trade areas is a common form of trading blocs. This is when all the tariff and non-tariff barriers are removed on goods and services which have been traded between the member countries. That means the member countries in the trading bloc has complete freedom to trade with each other freely. But each country will have a certain policy when dealing with the countries outside the trading bloc. That means they have certain rules and regulations which are unique to themselves when dealing with non-member countries. One common form of a free trade area is the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. There Mexico, USA and Canada has come up with a trading bloc where they will freely trade goods and services between these three countries. For their dealings with the rest of the world, they have certain unique policies and protectionism mechanisms which will be used. The next form of trading blocs is the custom unions. Earlier in free trade areas, we learned that they have a common set of regulations and rules for member countries, and for the non-member countries, they have individual policies which each country will adopt. But here in custom unions, they allow member countries to trade freely, and also they impose a common external tariff for goods coming from non-member countries. That means the way they deal with the non-member countries is similar to all the countries who are members of that trading bloc. As given in the picture, country A, B, C are in a custom union. So they share goods and services without any protectionism. That means no tariffs or other non-tariff barriers won't be imposed between these countries. And also when these three countries are dealing with the rest of the world, that means non-member countries, they have a common external barrier. Another form of trading blocs are what we call as the common markets or single markets. These are also a kind of a custom union, but these allow free movement of labor and capital within the member countries. That means production resources can be freely moved between each other countries who are members. As shown in the diagram which is given, the 6 nations, nation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they can share goods and services as well as production resources, labor and capital as well between the 6 countries who are members of that common market. In this picture, we have a summarized version of single markets, custom unions and free trade agreements. This shows the significant features of each kind of trading bloc. The next form of trading blocs is what we call as the economic or the monetary unions. Basically, a monetary union or economic union is where a group of countries will get together and act as a one country. There the members will be like different regions of a one nation. Even though there are several countries, they act as a one nation and they will share the same currency. Also, they will give authority to a central body to control the fiscal and monetary policies of those respective countries. That means the economic union has some control over the fiscal and monetary policies of these member countries. Let us now briefly look at the examples of trading blocs. One good example is the European Union. It is the biggest trading bloc so far and it has over 28 members. And the member country shares the same currency, which is the euro. And also now they are in the process of transforming themselves from a custom union to a full economic union, where they will share all the resources and also they will control the monetary and fiscal policies of the member countries. In a monetary union, as the member countries are sharing the same currency and they have a central body to control the monetary and fiscal policies of the member countries, there will be certain problems that the member countries will have to face. One main problem is that the member countries will lose control over the monetary policy of their country. Basically, this is an inevitable feature of the monetary unions. That means whatever the country who joins the monetary union, they will have to face this problem. When a central body controls the monetary policy, the decisions will be taken considering about all the member countries, not about one country in specific. So if a particular country is in trouble or is in a financial crisis in the given period, common controls imposed by the central body will not be helpful to tackle the particular situation that respective country is facing. That means they need specialist support. Specialized support is needed to that country in order to get out of the problems that they are facing now. A good example of this problem is when Greece was in a financial recession. After the global financial crisis, Greece suffered from a severe recession in their country. Since they were sharing the euro, since they were sharing the common currency, they didn't have monetary control in order to get out of this problem. If they had a single currency, if they had their own currency rather than sharing the euro, they could have printed more money and thereby increase the money supply. When the money supply increases, the country will be able to expand the aggregate demand and thereby come out of the recession. Another problem was that the countries started to borrow money from other countries and the national debts kept on increasing and finally it went out of hand. As the countries were borrowing more and more money, the national debts went out of hand. Therefore, in order to prevent problems arising from the increment of national debts, two rules were imposed. One is a government must not exceed the fiscal deficit of more than 3% of the GDP. And also, the governments must not exceed the national debts above 60% of the GDP. These two rules were imposed in order to prevent countries from borrowing above their ability to pay, above their ability to repay the debts. A good example is France and Germany borrowed large amounts of money during the financial deficits, and this increased the level of inflation across the Eurozone. This is a problem to all the member countries. So in order to prevent this, the rules were imposed which all the member countries should abide. Let us now briefly look at the examples of trading blocs. One good example is the European Union. It is the biggest trading bloc so far, and it has over 28 members. And the member country shares the same currency, which is the euro. And also now they are in the process of transforming themselves from a custom union to a full economic union, where they will share all the resources, and also they will control the monetary and fiscal policies of the member countries. Another trading bloc is the North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA. Currently, it is a free trade area, and this is the largest bloc when considering the GDP of the member countries. It has three giant members, mainly USA, Canada, and Mexico. Due to the higher GDPs of these three countries, this is considered as the largest trading bloc in respective of the GDP. And currently it is in the process of moving to becoming a custom union. Currently it is a free trade area, and in future they are hoping to transfer themselves to a custom union. The 10 Southeast Asian countries have got together and come up with a trading bloc known as the Association of South Asian Nations, ASEAN. Currently, it is a free trade area, and they are hoping to expand it to a common market by 2025. Let us now look at the costs and benefits of membership in a trading bloc. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of being a member of a trading bloc? Looking at the benefits of membership in a trading bloc, the first main benefit is the trade creation. That means since there are less or rather no barriers to trade between the member countries, the countries will be encouraged to trade more among the members. They will buy and sell more than before. Due to the expansion of the trading activities, we call it as trade creation. Earlier, we had to bear tariffs and other legal charges which were imposed as protectionism mechanisms when trading between nations. Now, since most of the countries have joined trading blocs, the barriers are less and will be able to source raw materials and also to import and export goods at a lower cost than before. So this leads to trade creation. Due to the increase in the level of competition, now the firms are expanding their production. The scale of production has now expanded in order to gain productive and allocative efficiency. Since the other nations are also competing with them more than before, they are now in a pressure of competition. So when the firms are allocatively and productively efficient, it is good for the economy as well, because the economy will also grow with the increase in the financial activities of businesses. And also when the production scale increases, the cost of businesses will come down and they will be able to sell at a lower price to the market than before. Another benefit for a country by being a member of the trade union is they will be able to reduce their business costs. That means if we take the side of raw materials, firms will be able to source raw materials at cheaper prices due to less protectionism between the member countries. And also other business services such as banking and also transportation, these services can also be sourced at lower cost than before. So the overall production cost will reduce, thereby leading to cheaper prices. When the prices are cheaper, the products will become more competitive in the foreign markets, and thereby a country will be able to expand the level of exports that they do. A major disadvantage of membership in a trading bloc is what is called the trade diversion. This occurs when a country had to shift from importing goods from a cheaper country to importing goods from an expensive country. For an example, assume a country previously imported from the cheapest country who offers their goods at the lowest price. But now, with the membership in the custom union, they have to trade with the member countries, and in member countries the product that you are looking for might be very expensive. Still, regardless of the price, you will have to buy from the member country rather than from that cheaper valued country. So that is what is known as trade diversion. That membership in the trading bloc has made the country to seek goods from an expensive country rather than buying from cheaper sources. Another disadvantage is the transaction cost. Transaction costs are the extra costs that a country will have to bear when exchanging goods and services with other countries. For an example, these might be the commissions and charges imposed by banks when dealing with the documents related to international trade, or might be the cost of currency changes. That means when the exchange rate is changing daily, some countries might gain and some countries might face a loss. So the cost of the currency changes are also comes under transaction costs. But if we are in a monetary union, most of these costs can be avoided as they are in the same currency. So currency fluctuation risk is not there in a monetary union. Movement of factors of production. This has some advantages as well as some disadvantages to the member countries. That means with the permission given to move factors of production across countries, most of the countries will benefit because a valuable flow of resources will come into the country. But when considering the countries which are at the edge of the world map, like the corner countries, they will find it very expensive due to the high transportation costs, and also the documentation will be much complex. So there also you will have to bear up another extra cost when the process is too complex. So it has a positive side as well as a negative side. Let us briefly look at the conflicts between trading blocs and the World Trade Organization, how the objectives of these two can conflict. The first clash of objectives is that the World Trade Organization aims to allow free trade between all the countries in the world. But in a trading bloc, only the member countries are allowed to trade freely. So, while the World Trade Organization is looking at a wider angle, the trading bloc is looking at few member countries and they encourage free trade only between those few countries. So the objective of World Trade Organization is not in line with the functions of the trading bloc. Another conflict is that if there's a conflict between trading blocs or a trading bloc with another country, they will take measures to increase the level of protectionism when trading with that country, or rather with those member countries. So what happens is World Trade Organization aims at providing free trade for all the countries. But here, due to the conflicting situations, the member countries of a trading bloc will act aggressive towards another country, and the clause of most favored nations will be violated. Another conflict is trading blocs are usually formed between developed countries. Example, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which is formed between the three giant countries, Canada, USA and Mexico. But World Trade Organization encourage developing countries to come forward. So, while the World Trade Organization encourages developing countries, trading blocs usually form between the developed countries. So, the objectives are conflicting. As we have learned the lesson in detail, let us now move on to the checkpoint questions. Here I have given you 4 questions. Answer them in a separate paper. I hope everything is clear and we have come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching.